I'd now like to move on to something a little bit newer, and I'd like to invite our panellists to come and join me, please. And we're going to talk about local energy trading. So, panellists, if you would like to come and take a seat, please. For this part of the session, I'm very pleased to welcome Daniel Barrett, who is the Smart Energy Systems Lead for the GLA, Donna Cooper, Residential Project Manager at Centrica, Sebastian Blake, who is the Head of Markets and Policy at Open Energy, and Mark Atherton, who is Assistant Director for Environment at the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. Each of these guys is going to give you a brief intervention of their initial thoughts on this, and then you'll get the chance to ask them some questions. So I'm going to turn first to Daniel. Do you want to stand, or would you rather sit and talk? Up to you.
No, I'm happy to stand.
Okie dokes.
Okay.
Daniel, over to you.
Do you want to take this slide off, or are you happy to leave it on?
Go for it. Yeah, there we are.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Daniel Barrett. I work at City Hall for the Greater London Authority. It was fascinating to get playback from someone who is having to deal with some of the things that we are putting in place at City Hall. So it was a really insightful presentation, so I do appreciate that. Thank you. But I'm here to talk about something slightly different, which is kind of what we're doing at City Hall to support Londoners get involved in the energy market and energy system. So the Mayor published his environment strategy last year. Energy is a core part of that strategy, and a major part of what we're doing on energy is what we call the Energy for Londoners programme. So this is a £34 million programme to make London's homes warmer, healthier, more affordable, its workplaces more energy efficient, and to supply the capital with more local clean energy. There's a number of programmes and projects that sit beneath that, but in relation to energy and trying to get people more involved in the energy system, we have a key objective, which is to develop smart integrated energy systems using local and renewable resources, and then for people to engage with those systems so that they can get some benefit, whether that's cutting their bills, being rewarded for being more flexible, alongside things like having a warmer home. There are a number of programs that we have in place that are kind of supporting this move to what they call the prosumer. One is the Community Energy Fund, Phase 2. The Phase 2 is supporting not just solar, it's also about trying to bring forward demand side management solutions, whether that at community and household level. So community energy groups can bid for funding to try and get some of those schemes off the ground. We also have a programme called Flex London, which is operating at the moment. That's primarily focused on the commercial sector and public sector. And that really tries to bring together organisations that are wanting to be more flexible with the way in which they use energy, generate energy and store energy, with solution providers that can help them to do those things. I think there are a number of barriers for organisations to take that next step in the flexibility markets. It's very confusing, it's very complicated. The way in which you can be more flexible is kind of not packaged in a way that's simple to understand. So this Flex London Challenge programme is trying to help address some of those problems. And then finally, we have a project called Home Response, which is a domestic flexibility project where we are planning to work with a number of organisations, London boroughs and housing associations, and to work with them, to work with their residents, ideally 160 households, to be more flexible in the way in which they heat their hot water via electricity and or use solar panels combined with battery storage to either self-consume that power or look to trade it. So there are a number of partners involved in that project, but that is really trying to take that next step for, at the domestic level, the demand side market that's evolving, and particularly focus that on those households that are most in need, i.e. maybe they're suffering from acute fuel poverty, or currently on tariffs that are expensive. So trying to address the market that may be least able to access some of these new technologies and new ways of consuming and storing energy. So that's a kind of a run through of some of the things we're doing. If you want to know a bit more about that domestic project that I mentioned, Home Response, there's a number of these projects being funded by BEIS, and there will be a bit of a presentation about all of them tomorrow afternoon. So if you want to know a bit more about that whole program from BEIS, I think it starts about 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, which I'll be there talking a little bit more about it. So I won't say any more. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Donna, would you like to join us next?
Hi all. Hi, I'm Donna Cooper and I'm the Residential Project Manager for the Cornwall Local Energy Market. The Local Energy Market in Cornwall is an ERDF and Centrica funded programme, and it's a great example of how generation, storage and flexibility across both business and domestic sectors can be used to support the support the grid. The local energy market has developed a virtual marketplace to help trade flexibility, and then combined with storage and renewable technology, we've been able to really test the ability of that new market. So I guess the question is why Cornwall? So, well, first of all, I've lived and worked in Cornwall for the last 10 years, so it was a great opportunity for me. But actually, Cornwall itself has a large, a very big sector within renewables, so lots of wind and lots of solar. It's actually created quite a few challenges on the network down there in terms of the electricity grid. So there's big queues for more renewable generation and some expensive connection charges. Along with that, the council there also has big ambitions to be more sustainable, I guess, and take more control over energy, and also has other kind of domestic issues in terms of lots of fuel poverty down there as well. So by the idea of combining smart technology together to help relieve the network, uptake renewables in the area, and help to reduce some of the domestic issues. So my role for the last 2 years has been working with 100 homes across the county, installing technology, so residential scale batteries and solar PV where it's been needed. I'm very pleased to say that we've just completed our 100th install. It's taken 6 months, and it's been, as I'm sure you can probably imagine, quite challenging. It's all been retrofit, and each property has had its own list of interesting ways and things to manoeuvre. We are working with our battery provider, who are Son & Battery. They have created a virtual power plant for us so that we can actually use those batteries to trade on the local energy market, and can do that remotely. So the householders actually have don't have to lift a finger. They can actually just use their battery and their PV as they would normally do so, and we then get to use any flexibility or any available capacity at a later point. So as I've already mentioned, we've just finished our 100th install, and we are now in that testing phase. We want to test how residential assets can help bump and support the network, and we want to also understand more about how householders are going to use that technology, whether they are actively going to change their behaviour and help some of their load shifting, or whether they're just happy to let the battery and the PV do what it needs to do, and they continue to live as they already do. And we have a year's worth of testing to do on that, so I can't unfortunately give you too much insight yet at this point about the amount of flexibility our householders can provide. Hopefully, this time next year I'll be able to give you a lot more information. We do have a very engaged population in Cornwall. Our householders quite often will tell us if their battery, for example, has gone down. They are using their app really proactively. Now, I appreciate that is possibly because it's new technology, it's new, different, and they're still learning from it. But I think actually, I would argue that our householders are becoming more and more engaged about how they control their homes, and I think that only really puts us in good stead for future and potential opportunity for householders potentially trading their assets as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna. Sebastian, you have to go next.
Hi there, so I'm Seb Blake from Open Energy. We're a demand-side aggregator. So what that means is we've built up a portfolio of controllable assets at the grid edge, sitting on site with consumers. which we manage automatically and flex up and down to participate in the energy markets. So local energy trading, what is that? I mean, for us, it's not sort of buying solar power from your neighbor down the road. It's nothing to do with blockchain. It's simply valuing the geographical component of an energy market participant. This is something power stations have been doing for years and years and reaping the benefits of it, but currently something which is not valued at the distribution level. So for us, when we're trying to compete with large power stations with batteries on people's roofs, we're at an inherent disadvantage. So we need this marketplace to be set up and to exist, and things like the Cornwall local electricity market to really succeed. But so far, they've struggled. They haven't worked to being able to foster a huge amount of volume because of a number of fundamental challenges, which I'm gonna go through. I mean, the first of all is it's really difficult. It's really difficult to create a local energy trading market where there hasn't been one before. And I think the main one is there's no sort of forward visibility of requirement. So the makeup of your local electricity network is what determines the value of sitting behind it. Now, at the moment, UK Power Networks, who sort of manage the grid in London, are procuring services for constraint management. So any of you can go on to and look at what areas they're having problems with their network, essentially, and where there might be value in sort of selling a service and participating in the market. I did it before I came out, and I found out my home in Stoke Newington is in fact, behind one of these areas. So, in theory, we should be able to build a battery and sell a service that's of value. But why it's difficult is, I think, first of all, there's really little standardization. Like the network is really different depending on where you are. So in one part of the network, you might need a service which only acts for, half an hour, and that really helps alleviate a constraint. Whereas just down the road, it could have a completely different makeup, and you need something that's, of 2 or 3 hours of duration. So which battery do I buy? It's a completely unique and bespoke solution for each part. There's also this issue around sort of like trust. Like the people who are going to be dispatching this is in London. It's UK Power Networks, the distribution network. But we rely on them for loads of other things as well. They're the people who come and connect your building up whenever you build somewhere new, and therefore there's an issue around sort of too much information being hoarded in one place. It becomes a real power center, and so far there isn't really a solution on how we can sort of ensure there's separation, and therefore you're not going to be penalized as an active market participant who's tendering for their services while also needing them for other things. And I think the last one I'll sort of go for is prices. It's incredibly difficult for us building a battery to try and work out what is the value of this service when it is so highly bespoke, and it depends exactly on where you are. So how the hell are we going to know sort of how much we should be paying for a battery or another piece of kit, and trying to value it over the 5 years it might cost to depreciate that, when this market hasn't existed before. There's no price points to reference. So what we're seeing some DNOs do is fixed prices. So WPD, who do sort of the Midlands and Wales, South Wales, have started a service where they're fixing a price, and I really think it's a good effort. It's a good way of fostering a market and taking it from zero to getting some traction, building up some liquidity. So it's something we're really in support of. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Seb. A few notes of caution there and what needs to change. Mark, would you like to finish us off with your thoughts?
Afternoon, everybody. Gosh, it's all happening down south, isn't it? My name's Mark Atherton. I work for Greater Manchester. For those of you who don't know it, it's a little bit north of Watford, and it's quite a big city. I don't really want to tell you about policy, and I don't really want to talk to you about regulation, because you've heard all of that, and I agree with an awful lot of what's been said. But what I do want to do is talk to you about vision. I want to tell you about different ways that the energy system might operate in the future. And I want to tell you just about a couple of the things, 3 projects and 1 bit of research that help to try and bring that vision for you. So imagine a future where social homes, and Greater Manchester's got about 250,000 social homes. Social homes are all connected with air source heat pumps or different types of electric heating that have some form of storage on site, whether that be thermal storage or battery storage. Imagine that. Imagine that you've got sensors in the homes that allow you to remotely control that heating system so that you can reduce it down when it's not needed, take it away from peak demand so you're reducing the load on the network, but you're making sure that the people in the homes are benefiting from the comfort that is being afforded by that heating system. So you're reducing their bills for them, or actually you're increasing their comfort by being able to manipulate their heating supply. And it doesn't bother them at all, they don't notice the comfort, but you're able to balance the grid in that way. So that's the first piece of vision I've got for you. We've already done that. That was a Smart Communities project we finished a year and a half ago. £30 million funded by the Japanese government, very successful, generates 200 kilowatts, megawatts of demand shift. Proven, can do it. My second vision is, imagine something similar but in the private sector, the able to pay market, and indeed the social market, where you've got PV on the roof, you've got a battery in the loft, you've got air source heat pump underneath the stairs. You might even have an electric vehicle in the garage if you're lucky enough to be able to afford one. And you're able to use a building management system, a home energy management system that maximizes the efficiency of the energy, the free energy that you're generating, and turns it into heat at the most cost-effective time for you. Imagine that's connected with your neighbor and maybe linked into a local network that you're able to trade with your neighbor. And you can utilize their electricity when they're not using it, and they can use yours when you're not using it. Imagine that. We're funding that now. That's an ERDF project, £10 million, called Homes as Energy Systems. It's going to start mid-May, be finished in 2 years' time, and it'll prove that concept. It's another bit of vision. The third is about public buildings and commercial buildings. Imagine heat networks that run along the centres of our roads and fund and fuel those buildings that are commercially heat intensive, our universities, our health centres, our swimming centres, leisure centres, our data centres. But you're able to manage that heat load together with PV on the roof, potentially, large scale PV, again storage, maybe even using fuel cells, managing it through building management systems and grid management systems that effectively allow you to change where that energy is being produced and distributed and used at any given time. We've already done that. It's a Triangulum project. 25 million euros finished a year and a half ago. And finally, a piece of research, so not a project, but a piece of research, local energy market, which basically says, how do you link each of those things together? How do you link social homes with the private homes, with domestic, with commercial properties and public buildings, and create a network where you can work with the DNO to be able to manage that resource over a wide geographic area. Just got research funding to do that through UKRI, and a piece of research will define whether that is possible to go to demonstrator in the next 6 months. That's the vision I want to leave you with. It isn't all happening down south. It is happening up north as well. And I think there is a revolution happening. But a lot of the challenges that these guys have talked to you about are there. I don't want to make it sound as easy. It's not. But that transition is happening, and it's happening now.
Thank you, Mark. I like a nice dose of northern pragmatism to finish with. We have got a few minutes for a couple of questions. Would anybody like to ask the panel something? Okay, I want to. Is that all right? So, just to finish with, each one of you, I'm just going to pass this along, one thing that you would ask either of government or of the industry that would make local energy trading happen better, faster, sooner.
I would ask for greater reward for homeowners to receive greater reward for being more flexible. So that requires industry and government to change the markets for which that can happen.
Cool.
My ask is pretty simple. We need more data, more publicly available data. A lot of this data sits in the hands of regulated monopolies. There's only sort of one company managing the local grid. And knowing where those constraints are is what enables us to build sort of economic solutions and like prioritize investment. So we can force people to release data, and that would really help.
Hi, my request would be from the distribution network operators. Working with them has been very challenging, and if I was a householder looking to install a battery in my home as a retrofit, I think I probably would have given up by now. I would much prefer, and my big ask would be, we need to get this process more streamlined so that everybody can take advantage of it if they want to.
Some good answers there. I don't think it gets more difficult as you go down the line. I think data's a big issue. Mine's perhaps not just about energy trading and this part of the agenda. It's perhaps a bit broader. What we need from any government, no matter what colour, is stable, consistent and visionary energy policy.
Okay, just a small ask there to finish with.